Update 1. I ruined his relationship years ago just to get a shot with him, and I got everything I wanted. Husband. House. Baby on the way. But last week, he found one tiny thing on my old phone and now says he doesn't know who I am. I laughed. Until he handed me divorce papers and said he's taking our daughter, too. He said he feels like our entire relationship is built on lies and manipulation. Like everything good between us is somehow fake because of how we got together. Which is so unfair because I've been nothing but honest and devoted to him throughout our marriage. The fight ended with him sleeping on the couch again and me wondering how everything went so wrong so fast. 1 minute we're this happy family planning our future, and the next minute he's looking at me like I'm a stranger he can't trust. After that horrible fight, I thought Caleb would cool off and start seeing things rationally again. But instead, he's been acting like a completely different person, cold, distant, suspicious of everything I say and do. He barely talks to me unless it's about our daughter. And even then, he keeps conversations short. I tried making his favorite dinner, wearing the dress he loves on me, being extra affectionate, but nothing's working. He just pulls away from me like I'm contaminated or something. This is not the man I married. The Caleb I fell in love with wouldn't punish me for caring about him. So, I decided to take a different approach. I sat him down when our daughter was napping and really opened up about my feelings. I explained how hurt I was by his reaction, how confused I was about why he's treating me like the enemy, and how scared I am that he's going to let something from the past ruin our future. I told him about my insecurities back then, watching him with Sienna and feeling invisible. How I used to see them together at work and wish I could be the one making him smile like that. How it broke my heart to watch him waste his time on someone who didn't appreciate him the way I did. But instead of showing me compassion, he just sat there with this blank expression like he was analyzing everything I said for hidden meanings. When I finished talking, he asked me if I understood how what I did affected other people, not just him, but Sienna, too. I told him honestly that I don't really care how it affected Sienna because she was the one who put herself in that position by being on dating apps while in a relationship. If she hadn't been doing something wrong, there wouldn't have been anything for me to expose. He started lecturing me about empathy and consequences, like I'm some kind of sociopath who can't understand basic human emotions. He said Sienna probably went through hell wondering how those photos ended up on a dating site. Probably questioned everyone around her. Probably felt violated and confused. And honestly, so what? That's what happens when you make bad choices. If she didn't want to deal with the consequences of being on dating apps, she shouldn't have been on them in the first place. I'm not responsible for her emotional well-being when she was the one betraying my future husband. The conversation got worse when he brought up how I approached him afterward. He said, I took advantage of him when he was vulnerable and heartbroken. Like I'm some predator who preyed on his emotions instead of someone who genuinely loved him and wanted to help him heal. I reminded him that he's the one who matched with me on the dating app. He's the one who asked me out. He's the one who pursued the relationship and proposed to me. I didn't force him into anything. If anything, I was just available when he was ready for something real. That's when I started getting really frustrated with his attitude. I pointed out that he seems to have selective memory about how happy he was during our early relationship. How he used to tell me I was exactly what he needed after dealing with someone untrustworthy. How grateful he was to find someone genuine and honest who wouldn't play games with his heart. He got quiet for a long time, just staring at his hands while I waited for him to say something. When he finally looked up at me, his eyes were different, not angry exactly, but empty, like he was looking at a stranger. He said he needs time to think about everything, which honestly sounds like code for I'm planning to leave you. He said he's going to stay in the guest room for a while so we can both process what's happening. I told him he was being dramatic and that this separation nonsense wasn't necessary. We can work through this together like adults. But he said he doesn't trust his own judgment right now because he's questioning everything about our relationship. That really set me off because our relationship is the best thing that ever happened to either of us. We have an amazing marriage, a beautiful daughter, and a baby on the way. We own a home together. We've built a life together. We're a family. But he's ready to throw all of that away because his feelings are hurt about something that happened before we were even together. Living with Caleb in this weird limbo state was driving me absolutely insane. He's polite but distant, like I'm some roommate he barely tolerates instead of his pregnant wife. He takes care of our daughter, does his share of household stuff, but treats me like I'm invisible unless he absolutely has to interact with me. And the worst part, he's been talking to people about our situation. I can tell because suddenly everyone's acting weird around me. His sister used to text me all the time, but now she barely responds to my messages. Even some of our couple friends have been making excuses not to hang out. I finally confronted him about it because I'm not stupid. I asked him exactly what he's been telling people about me, and he had the nerve to say he's just processing things with his support system. Like I'm some kind of problem that needs to be discussed with a committee instead of his wife who deserves privacy and respect. That's when I realized he's not just having doubts about our past. He's actively trying to build a case against me with other people, getting them on his side so when he inevitably does something stupid like leave me, he'll have backup telling him he's making the right choice. So, I decided to do some damage control of my own. I reached out to my sister and a few close friends to explain what's really happening, how Caleb is having some kind of breakdown over something that happened years ago before we were even together. How he's making me feel like a monster for caring about him when his ex-girlfriend was clearly not right for him. Most of my friends were shocked that he's treating me this way. They pointed out that whatever happened in the past, I've been nothing but a devoted wife and mother. They reminded me that I gave up my career to support his goals and raise our family. They agreed that he's being completely unreasonable and unfair. But even my mom's reaction got me thinking about how I was going to handle this situation long term, because it was becoming clear that Caleb wasn't just going through a phase. He was seriously considering ending our marriage over this, which is completely insane, but apparently where his head is at. So, I started protecting myself and our family in practical ways. I made sure I had access to all our financial accounts and knew exactly what assets we had. I started documenting Caleb's behavior and how it was affecting our daughter in case I needed to prove he was being unstable during a custody hearing. I also started reaching out to lawyers just to understand my rights and options, not because I want a divorce, but because I need to be prepared if Caleb does something stupid. The lawyer I consulted said that while Caleb might feel morally justified in his anger, what I did years ago wouldn't necessarily impact a divorce settlement or custody arrangement. Meanwhile, Caleb has been doing his own research. I've seen him looking up articles about manipulation and gaslighting, like he's trying to diagnose me with some kind of personality disorder. He's been taking notes in a journal, probably documenting everything I say and do to use against me later. The whole thing is so frustrating because I can't defend myself without him twisting my words around. When I try to explain my motivations back then, he says I'm being manipulative now. When I point out how happy we've been together, he says that's irrelevant to the foundation of our relationship. Everything came to a head last Tuesday when Caleb came home from work with an envelope in his hands and this grim expression on his face. I knew immediately that whatever was in that envelope was going to change everything. And I was right. He sat me down at our kitchen table and pulled out a stack of papers, divorce papers,